Let's go, Nuno! Turn those off. Oh my God. Nuno Betancourt, ladies and gentlemen. Can we talk about him again? Again? I know, I keep going on about Nuno. I keep circling back. I'm still trying to go through all my heroes here. I've got so many. Nuno Betancourt, however, I want to talk about this particular track and a particular thing that he does, which I think is the hardest thing he's ever achieved. Let's see what you think. Anyway, that was obviously a bit of Decadence Dance, first track off their second album, Porno Graffiti, 1992, 1991. Oh. Anyway, life-changing album, I'm sure, for a lot of you. Obviously, the biggest thing off that was More Than Words. Absolutely sent them into the stratosphere fame-wise, but then people probably turned up to the shows and got Play With Me, then Bumblebee and all that type of stuff, and He-Man Woman Hater straight in the face, and they were probably a little bit like, what the hell's going on, but that's the way it was back then. Anyway, I don't mean to ramble. This track, it's the first thing I ever heard from Nuno Betancourt was this album, and again, I remember stealing the CD from my guitar instructor and listening to it, and even just that intro with the... You had the second guitar going. I forget how the beginning goes. Anyway, the thing there is, hidden in that track was just the most unbelievable little guitar snippets thrown in between the vocals, obviously very Van Halen-esque, but my God, the technique that was involved in there. Like, even if we look at the second, I believe it was the second verse where he threw in those little snippets. God, does it get any better than that? I'm so sorry. I know everyone's thinking, what are you doing? Will you get on with it? I get so carried away. But again, the interesting thing here is that whole album has just endless technique all over it, and you really need to dig it out and listen to the whole thing. But I just want to show you something, which I want to see whether everyone avoided learning this part or if you play it differently. But it's the hardest thing I think he's done on here. Again, isn't the all his tapping? It's not that. It's not even the, because he does some sneaky stuff, doesn't he? Like, you know that song. It's a monster where out of nowhere he just decides, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to throw in an entire F major scale, 3-note string all the way up. Turn the delay off, sorry. Just in between a bit of vocal, you've got just to annoy us all. Anyway, it's not even that. It's not all of his picking stuff. It's this thing here. I believe that's one of the most difficult things. See what you think. What they actually are is, you can look at them a couple of different ways. You can look at them as a sixths, you know, major and minor sixths. Or you can see them as the fifth and the third inside a chord. What's that? It's AC/DC, isn't it? Or you can think of it as... There we go. It's actually in G, isn't it? There we go. Sorry, I digress. But those right there, to get those big jumped intervals, and I've seen him do it now, you can watch him on live, where he will actually... He'll get those huge stretches picking wise. And I think that's particularly difficult. It is for me anyway. That right there. Oh, it's a big jump. Oh, very, very big jump. However, probably a lot of people would avoid it and go, are you guilty of it? Do you do it hybrid? And my advice is, don't avoid it. Start trying to play it. Yeah, it's a drag, isn't it? It's an absolute nightmare, but it's got to be done. You got to get in there and you just got to repeat the whole thing. And he uses those six all over the place, even there. Again, all those things taken from good old 70s rock and roll, AC/DC, stuff like that. But yeah, I believe that's the hardest sort of thing that I've covered out of his playing, is those big string skips and the picking, that one in particular. But it brings me on to a point that I think I've made it before, but you can have a phrase that you're trying to learn, or some sort of little thing, it's a lick or something from someone's playing, and you just don't get on with it, and it's a nightmare for you. And that happens, it happens to me all the time. Things, especially if I'm, you know, there's things that, like, you know, Rick Graham, and I'm just like, I just cannot, it just doesn't fit my fingers very well. So I'll try and do a variation, and therefore kind of assimilate a little bit of it and make it my own, if you like. And that's what I'd always advise to do. But sometimes you have just got to work on a specific technique like that right there. The actual string crossing is just a drag, but without it, it makes it hard to access those intervals sometimes. But then you can do them stretching, can't you? That's a bit easier than... Oh, but either way, I think that's possibly the hardest thing he's ever done. But do you want to know what I really think the hardest thing? Let me turn that off, it's annoying Chris probably. The hardest thing he's ever done. Ready? He's bought a massive house in Beverly Hills. That's what he's done. He's earned millions. That's the hardest thing you can ever do, playing the instrument. Anyway, you got to give him the credit though. He's not just a guitarist. He's a monster composer. Well, yeah, artist. You know, guitarist. Plays piano, plays drums. He's a musician, right down to his soul, and he's been doing it for decades, and he's still awesome. So anyway, Nuno Betancourt, hardest thing he's ever done. He's earned millions of dollars. Right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go through all of that album and show you just one thing from each track that has really taken, you know, I've taken it and I've assimilated it and put it in my playing. Anyway, that right there, horrible string skips, massive picking. You've got to do it. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll see you next week for another pointless ramble.